Hey, this is Paulo, and this is Mind Your Own Business.
You want to make sure that you're putting your money into the business. So living below your means is really important. So my point is, as you get older, you get more responsibilities, and like I have a wife and a child now, so it's like harder and harder to become an entrepreneur. So the thought was like, start as soon as possible when you don't have all these, you can take the risk, right? You don't have as much responsibilities, but it's better to live well below your means and put more money into the business than it is to like make money and then spend it. you know
Absolutely. So you have, let's say you have two kids, a wife, with just a wife. That's that's enough.
yeah,
How can you?
and typically the older you get too, and if you're accelerating your career, you start hitting those big milestones of like cracking the $100,000 a year, and then some people start making 150 and $200,000 a year, which is awesome. But if you get to that level where you're getting paid like 200 grand a year, dude, good luck trying to create a business to like take over that income, because it's to make a business that makes $200,000 in profit, not revenue. So it has to be your income coming in. Like that's hard. It's really hard. But creating 25, $50,000 in profit or paying yourself is much easier.
And you know what? You can maybe, I'm not sure what was your like journey, but typically you don't think so ahead. How do you say that? Like so far away in time. Like you think you have all the time in the world. That's what I'm trying to say. Like when you're 30, I'm 31. So I think I'll never die. I'll never get old. I have all the time in the world. So I'm chilled. But actually, time flies. You know this.
Yeah.
It's
You,
dangerous.
I always tell people, I mean, there's so many different philosophies on all this, YOLO and all that good stuff. But I always tell people you hardly ever regret doing the hard things. Like you hate it when you're doing those things, like, but you're not going to regret waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning for a whole year. You're going to look back and like, wow, that was worth it. Or
Mm,
you're not going to regret taking the risk of starting a business. You're not going to regret like, you know, asking people, asking 1,000 prospects to go buy your service or product. Like, but you'll regret not doing those
mm.
things.
I wasted my time. I spent 2 hours on Facebook and now they're gone. Like I
You
regret that.
regret that, but you won't regret
Absolutely.
picking up the phone and talking to five people and trying
Exactly.
to sell them on your service. It
Exactly.
sucks. You're not gonna like it, but it feels so good when you do stuff like that. There's no better feeling than doing something really really difficult and looking back on it, whether you fail or you succeed, and being like, wow, I'm so glad I did that.
I think that's one of the biggest elements of like the military troops, right?
Yeah, the
So
military.
yeah, military, like they do something that's awful and it's that should be hell, and they do it like within a community and they treat themselves as brothers, and it's like the mission, right? And so they're so focused, and of course then we can talk about is that good or bad, like shooting a gun, shooting two people, I don't know, whatever you want to see it. But the mindset of the military, uh, you know, troops is great. Is great for you to have like in your family, like within your community, your friends, maybe your business. Like we're in this together. This is the mission. We're coming out of this alive, of course. It's hard, but we're in it together. I think
Yeah,
that's
I don't know
dangerous.
if I told you, but I was in the military.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I was in the Marines, right out of high school,
How
and
was that?
going through boot camp and training and I spent 5 years in going
Wow.
on deployments. Dude, it sucked. it was, I mean, it was tough. It's the hardest thing I ever did, but look, I'm so proud of it though. Like I don't regret
Right.
doing it. That's what I'm
Right.
saying. Like you don't
Exactly.
regret the hard things. Like
And
it made me the person I am today. And
exactly.
like I'm telling you, there's no greater feeling than like accomplishing stuff like that.
Definitely.
Like graduating from boot camp was like one of the highlights, of my life. It was like, wow, I just did all that. That was crazy, but it was nerve wracking going into it. But once you're done, it's like, wow, I did that.
Yeah,
Um,
and then if you have a challenge today, is like, well, I mean, I did that. I can tackle this problem. Like, I can do it. Why not?
but those doors start closing too. Like at my age now, you can't join the military.
Oh yeah.
Like you can't go into special forces. You can't go fly a fighter jet. Like those things are behind me now. So you talk about like, you know, talk about time. Like if you don't do things like this, start like a professional athlete peaks at like what, I don't know, late 20s, 30s or something. I don't know the number, but you know, I'm 41, so like those things I can never be a pro athlete anymore. That's all behind me. So those things are starting to, like, the older you get, those things start slipping away. So yeah, you end up regretting the things you don't do.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've done so, like, you've come you've came a long way. You've done so much. Now that you said that you were in the military forces, I mean, that's amazing. And I think maybe I love Jocko Willing too much, but I think there's so much like wisdom we can use from the militaries to the business world and to like everyday life, everyday
Yeah, I mean,
relationships, everything.
I wasn't in the special forces like Jocko, but um, I definitely
But still,
I don't know where I'd be at today if I didn't join the military.
exactly.
Like it definitely changed my mindset. When you go through something very difficult like that, it helps you get more confident in being able to go do the hard things. So that's why I always say, like, you never regret doing the hard things. You regret not doing them. Like I wish I would have maybe went special forces when I was in. Like I didn't. I wish I would have maybe became a fighter pilot or something, but I didn't. I was I worked on helicopters. So, still went through some hard times and got deployed to Afghanistan, Iraq, and
Mm.
the Persian Gulf and all that stuff. But, um, there's still people that did way harder things than I did, though.
Sounds tough though. Those
Yeah.
things are hard. Much respect, man. No, more than before. I didn't know that.
Yeah. You know, got a lot of good, a lot of good stories for you.
Yeah, yeah. So let's say going back to a person who who's building their own thing, right? Just like I want to have my first three, four paying customers so I can fund myself, like bootstrapped, if you will.
Yep. So when you're starting your business, you're bootstrapping a business. You know, whenever you're starting out with your marketing, well, let me start with a couple things. One, it's really important to build your audience as soon as possible. So if you haven't started, start doing something with building your audience, whether you're trying to build a business or not. It's so much easier to market yourself when you have an audience. So always work on building your audience. That just comes with like producing content, again, getting very niche and narrow who you're talking to. The other thing too is when you're trying to market your product, try doing it organically first. So start with friends and family, reach out to everybody. If you A lot of people make this mistake. They don't want to tell everybody what they're doing because they're afraid of failure. So just you got to get yourself out there, and if you put yourself out in the universe, things will come back to you. So if you don't talk about what you're doing, if you're trying to run this agency or whatever it is, nobody's going to know it. Your friends and family are going to be your best source to like get your first clients. And one thing that I did when I started out too is I actually provided my service for free to the first three people that responded to my post for 30 days. And right away, I got a bunch of people commenting back. So I picked the first three people. The great thing about that is whenever you're doing services for free, there's no stress involved. Like, dude, it's free. So this is what you get. But it gives you that opportunity to like have that experience working with somebody if you've never worked with a client before. Then you can get a testimonial, and then also you can hopefully get referrals from that person too if you're successful working with them. But got to start somewhere, right? And if you can't give away whatever you're doing for free, then you probably need to either change a different, change the service or product or audience or whatever it is. But yeah, the the key is just taking that first step and just getting after it.
All right, and have a reflective question. Uh, what would you like to have known before creating your business? Like any roadblocks that you saw coming, but you didn't pay attention enough back then?
I would say that building a business is all. I always reference climbing a mountain. I love hiking and being on mountains. Um, and I like getting on top of Mount Everest. It's not like somebody has this crazy new idea that gets on top of Everest really fast, right? It's all the same. You take thousands of steps to get to the top of Everest and you finally make it to the top, right? So some people think that they have to have this huge, big idea and think outside the box and like, in reality, good ideas obviously help accelerate the business faster, but it's taking those small
Mm.
little steps every single day and just being consistent with that and never giving up. People try to go from zero to, a million as fast as possible. And if they don't get there, they feel like they're failing. But in reality, like it's that slow growth that will actually take you to being a successful entrepreneur. But yeah, I think that's the thing is I think people just give up too soon. It's
So
like in reality, it just things take time.
absolutely, like in everything, like building muscle. Again, like going to the gym is like you don't see those results in a month's time. You don't you don't fall in love in 1 month. It's just not
Yeah,
happening.
there's no magic pill. There's no like, get rich quick thing. Like
Mm.
there's those things kind of exist, I guess, but typically they're not sustainable. And it only works for like one in a million. Like, investing in NFTs very, very early and be getting rich kind of stuff. But yeah, but yeah, if I would have talked to myself, 10 years ago, it's all about like consistently just doing the little things every single day that will compound over time.
And so what information resource like book piece of advice has most influenced your life?
Yeah, one book I always reference that I think helped me a lot was called Mindset by Carol. I always forget her last name. But that book, talks about the whole thing of like, if you fail, it's not a big deal. You got to fail to grow. She references Michael Jordan a lot, his whole journey of how he became one of the greatest basketball players ever. Obviously, there's some people that would argue with that, but there's their business is all about mindset more than anything else. Like I said, there's a lot of like, information out there and techniques and tools and technology and all those things, but really it's all about like just grinding it out every single day. And you can have a failure and then, overcome it and, learn from your mistake and then try something new and just keep going at it. And yeah, mindset.
Mindset is so key, sometimes overlooked. Like I get that question a lot. Like I meditate, right, every day. So the first question I always get is like, is there an app for that? Which app do you use to meditate? And of course I go, no. I mean you can go to YouTube, plenty of meditation videos, but basically it's yourself, it's you with yourself sitting down, like looking in, so to speak. There's no app for that. Like and for mindset, like how can you change your life? Like how can you turn your life around by changing your perspective? There's no hack for that.
There's
It's
there
impossible,
isn't.
right?
Yeah,
So
I have a really good friend. His name's Jeff Zlotnick, and he he's into meditation. He has this temple here in San Diego, and he did a TED talk. And in the TED talk, he says, "Look, we're gonna do a meditation thing." He like did a meditation thing during the TED talk. He does it. He's really cool about it. He's like, "Look, you're not gonna float away. You're not gonna start like becoming a Zen master." And he says all these things like expectations up front. You're just gonna sit there and just try to be quiet and let your brain just wander and do its thing. But yeah, the whole meditation thing, people think it's, they see the pictures of the guys, doing this, and it doesn't have to be that. Like,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like with many things, there's only hard work and just like repetition, right? And frequency. Correct me here if I'm wrong, but marketing is also a matter of like putting content, but not one today, another one 6 months later, but actually frequently.
marketing is all about repetition. You have good days, you have bad days. You have good campaigns, you got bad campaigns. Probably more bad campaigns than good ones. But it's the consistency of just keep, chugging along and doing all the things that you need to do to like be successful. Uh, I mean, as a marketer, I've been doing this for a long time, and it can be emotionally draining because you have those moments where things are going really, really well, but then you get these moments where things just aren't working, and everybody has this expectation the business should have like look like a hockey stick, right? In reality,
Yeah.
that those hockey sticks happen, but they usually aren't. They're never sustainable. Like
Mm.
you'll have that for a certain amount of time, and then it'll go flat again, and it's just ebb and flow. But yeah.
And how do you recover from that? Like, what do you use for to bounce back from this challenging situation, like these valleys, right, or these not so great campaigns?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. One, you need to have a good foundation. You know, I always look towards my family, my friends. It's really important. My wife and my daughter are the most important thing to me. I got them. That's all that really matters. And then the other thing is like kind of just stepping away. Like
Mm,
just go for a walk, get away from it, clear your head. Like it's
I
kind of
love
like
it.
meditation. Um, but a lot of times when those things happen, people start getting really frantic and start doing maybe the wrong things instead of just like letting it be and just being patient and just recovering and then resetting yourself.
And do you have maybe a rude awakening or a favorite failure, like s- a teacher?
A favorite teacher?
Like, yeah, something like, I don't know, a bad time, seemingly bad. I mean, no,
Oh
for sure bad,
gosh.
but then at the end it was a teacher for you. Like after that, you learned a lot, and then you're a bigger person, so to speak. Like trying to make, like, yeah, to understand your change from before failure to after failure. Anyway.
Gosh, there's when you're an entrepreneur, you have so many failures. I'm trying to think of like one that comes to mind. Um, I had an mobile app company for a while, and one of the things that happened is uh, the Apple kind of they own your apps in the App Store, so they have all these restrictions and stuff, and we ran into all kinds of problems, and apps were getting rejected, and as soon as the app gets rejected and pulled from the store, like you lose all of your revenue.
Oh.
So the thing that I learned from this is, and it was easy for me to blame Apple, right? But in reality, that was an external factor that I can't control.
Mm.
So you have to understand that there's things that you can't control, but you can't focus on that. You got to control the things that you can control. And you're gonna have to figure out either pivot or work your way around it. But if it's something you can't control, you can't dwell on it. You're not going to solve any problems by dwelling on those things. So in that situation, I ended up selling off my app portfolio, and moved on from there. And yeah,
I mean, Kevin, sounds like marketing it's so much about life. Like I don't see marketing as being something only business related. Like what you're saying right now, like focus on what you can control is is critical. Like let's say I don't know, this might sound cheesy, but I'm in a marriage and she's like uh, going going out with someone else, right? That's kind of outside my control. I cannot. I don't own her. Like I cannot
right.
control her actions with someone else. My reaction I can control. Like my feelings to a degree, I can be aware of. Like yeah, I feel jealous. I feel bad. What can I do with this information instead of it's your fault. Like like pointing to the other person. So when you say again, that was pretty cheesy, and there are plenty of better examples out there. But when you say focus on what you control in your business, like minding your own business, that's so key for so many things in life.
Yeah, I mean, people, it's easy to like make blame others for things not working. Like, oh, if this didn't happen, I could have been more successful. Or if this didn't happen, we could have done this. But in reality, like a lot of times, for instance, we do a lot of Facebook advertising, and right now in Facebook, they're having a lot of issues battling with Apple, and they can't track their users, and that's a
Oh yeah.
whole thing. And a lot of these advertisers are really upset about it and really mad at like Facebook and Apple and all these things. This is the way I look at it. I'm like, great, make it harder. Get rid of all those people that don't know how to like figure it out, because the opportunity is still going to exist. It's still going to be there. It's not going to go away. And yeah, Facebook could go to zero someday, but it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen
Yeah.
anytime in the near future. But these people that are complaining about all these things that are happening, I'm okay with it. I guess my glass is half full. It's like, great, make it harder. Get rid of the people that, and the harder it is to like advertise, the more my services are going to be needed.
Mm.
Because if it was just as easy as like pressing a button and the ads worked and you made a bunch of money, like you wouldn't need me. So the harder it gets, the more I'm needed. That's so, but there's a whole bunch of people that are just complaining about it.
So I'm not sure if you know Jocko Willink. He calls
Yep.
this extreme ownership, which is a philosophy that I really like. I'm sure you know this too. And yeah, it's like problems good. Like in the solution, there are opportunities there. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
One of my, I don't know if, I guess it's one of my core philosophies is own it. Like, own your shit.
okay.
Like,
Love
you're
it.
the one that makes all the decisions in your life. You're the reason why you are where you are. Obviously, there's some other, people are in situations where they can't control it, but for the most part, you just gotta own where you're at right now, and make a decision to change things and go a different direction. And if you do something, like, don't try to pass blame on other people. People don't really respect that anyways. It's like, whenever you take ownership of it, you'll get way more respect.
Absolutely. And so I could be here for hours, you know this. I do want to be mindful of your time. So, last question I wanted to ask is where do we find you online? And any final thoughts, comments?
Yes. So you can find me, probably Twitter's the best spot, at Kevin Schrage. I'm also on LinkedIn. Same thing, Kevin Schrage. Uh, we also, you can find us on brandarrow.com. And I would say final thoughts are, if anybody is aspiring to be an entrepreneur, um, you got start somewhere. Take that first step. Don't be afraid. Uh, just stop watching all the videos and reading all the books. Executing is going to give you way more knowledge than reading the next book, or watching that next YouTube video to figure out how to like cheat the system or whatever it is. But yeah, get after it.
There you go, Kevin. Thank you so much for being here. Take care. See you next time.
Thank you, Pablo.